Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Coffee Solo audio program. I'm your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 2:23 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here in the Greater Vegas area on this Saturday, December 13th, 2025, making this episode 2025-12-1301. That's not confusing. I hope nobody is confused by the date with a 01 on the end of it. We talked about our numbering scheme in an earlier episode, but there we go. December 13th, 2025. The time is flying. The clock is ticking down. The year is nearly over. Although a new year starts every day. I don't know if everybody's realized that, but cool. I have written a bunch of things for today's show because there's a bunch of things I want to mention. I was going to record this show yesterday. I fell asleep. You can probably hear my voice is a little bit strained. I've been just all week, I just feel tired of talking. Like I need to go a week without speaking to anyone, or I need to speak more. I'm not really sure which. I think the world would be happier if I spoke less, but so yeah, my voice sounds tired. It is. The title of today's episode, Whatever, which I cannot do. I cannot do the voice justice. The summary, my very first job in Silicon Valley back in 1993 was working for a guy named Andrew, who would often respond to a conundrum with this single word, whatever. That was close. Whatever. Something like that. Oh, that actually hurt. Maybe I'm coming down with a throat thing. I don't know. Better knock this out before I can stop speaking, or before I stop being able to speak. The links, as usual. I haven't really gotten into the habit of adding links, relevant links, to the Coffee Solo episodes. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I don't know for sure if people click on anything, so it'd be interesting to know. If people are making use of the links that I provide. So yeah, my very first job, it was at Supermac, in case you're curious. But the links first available. This episode is first available at ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/danhugo, DANHUGO/posts. There you will find the first releases of the Coffee Solo audio program. It was a couple weeks ago, several episodes ago, I realized, it was actually not Spotify. Spotify has its problems too. It was buymeacoffee.com that was down or was not. I couldn't post anything to it. I was like, well, that's super annoying. And then I started thinking, not totally thrilled with the fact that these audio programs don't have an RSS feed. I mean, I would think Buy Me a Coffee and Coffee Solo would have an RSS feed for posts, right? So people could follow you, but they really want you to come to the website. So that's their business model, is having people come to the website to donate or buy things or whatever. So they try to make money on that traffic flow. The other annoying thing is you can't really search for people on these platforms. It's kind of annoying too. But anyway, so I started publishing on Spotify. I'm not a big fan of Spotify, but it does work most of the time. So I figured, we'll keep the name. But so I publish first on ko-fi.com for this program, and I publish first on buymeacoffee.com for Buy Me an Update. And then I publish both of those to Spotify sometime later. I schedule them for sometime later. So probably about 2 hours later, give or take, just whatever I feel like. If I were to post this episode at midnight or something, I would publish it right away through Spotify. So then these episodes appear on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, etc. So it doesn't really make sense to not do that. But I do publish these episodes first on Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. So that's the story. If I knew people had heard this story before, I would stop repeating it, but I have no idea. Coffee Solo and Buy Me an Update are also to be found on danhugo.com. danhugo.com, that's me. Neither Buy Me an Update nor Coffee Solo are intended to be like independent shows, I guess you could say. So they're sort of like personal vanity shows. Technically, so is Quaggling Sand. But there's a website for Quaggling Sand. There's a website for FFS Talk. There's a website for Cafe Genius. There's a website for Hugo Floss when that gets going. And of course, there's Innovate for Vegas for the Let's Innovate for Vegas audio program. But Coffee Solo appears as a personal brand, a vanity project, just for fun, just so I can not constrain myself to particular topics. But yeah, danhugo.com will be the primary point of publication. Spotify will remain secondary so that it can fan out to those other sites. And it will still be published first on on Ko-fi.com. But danhugo.com is the primary point. I mean, that's if Ko-fi.com disappears tomorrow, you should still be able to find these episodes. danhugo.com. Does that make sense? And as usual, the buymeacoffee.com/danhugo freeform profile page, which allows me to link everything. So there are links to everything I just mentioned to be found after some biographical information. And then you can also find episodes on Monday mornings of the Buy Me an Update audio program, 5 minutes or less, rundown on the previous week's audio programming and any news and announcements upcoming. Okay, the administrata is out of the way. I have thought about recording that as a separate insert, but no, I don't like it when I understand the production efficiency, like, oh, just record the ad spot and then we'll edit it in later. First of all, I don't have an editor. It's just me. But also, how can I put this? I don't want to disrespect business people out there. But here's something I thought about the other day. So I pay, what is it, $1 million a month for YouTube premium, YouTube premium, so that I don't have to do ads. So whatever it is, 10, 14, 12, whatever it is a month. And it is, I got to admit, it's a game changer. I did the trial period at 2 years ago or something. I was like, wow. Because I like YouTube. I like a lot of the people that create content, and they're a lot of interesting people, a lot of troublemakers. But I've found several dozens of channels that I really do enjoy. And I think it's worth $14 a month or 12, whatever it is. And to not have to deal with advertising, delightful. But more and more, and I have never had a YouTube channel that had advertising, so I don't know what the creator side of it is. But my understanding is once you reach a certain threshold, subs or views or whatever it is, by the way, none of this is written down. I'm just freewheeling at the moment. You have more control, you have more control over where ads are placed, I guess. So I think what I'm getting is that, because I started to see more and more people doing it. Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, like ad breaks. So my feeling is that you can tell YouTube when to insert an ad break, or you can do your own ad read, insert your own ad. I guess I don't know how that works, but the take home is, even if you're a YouTube Premium subscriber, which I am, I still see ads all the time. Like, what is the part I'm not understanding here? I'm paying for no ads and I'm getting ads. Is this Hulu? So, I mean, I'm all for making money, so whatever. But I started seeing the ads creeping in. They would do like a pre-roll, or there would be some sort of ad copy, like a visible advertisement, or hey, check the links. But now they're doing legitimate ad read commercials. So, either they're replaced by a Google ad insert, or it's, some random person drops in and, hey, don't forget to visit our sponsor, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of hate that. It's really getting annoying, but we are a world driven by ads. But I was watching, what's her name? Julia McCoy. Let me pull this up for a second. But she has a company, which I cannot remember the name of it. I will tell you shortly. She is in the AI space. It's not clear to me that she's she's not like an AI researcher or something, but she's got a company that focuses on AI. She does a lot of speaking, public speaking, TED Talk style. And I feel kind of dumb now because I thought it was kind of a joke. But so I just want to make sure I get her name right. I've watched several of her YouTube shows. I've never sat there and watched, but they're on, while I'm doing something. Interesting stuff. She kind of does a quick rundown on the AI scene and her opinions and whatnot. But she introduces the video. I got to tell you, I I love Firefox because I used to work at Netscape. That's the only reason now. But yeah, Julia McCoy. So, I mean, I could add a link to this, but you can find it if you want. Julia McCoy. So she dresses like Dr. McCoy, right? So she has the blue Star Trek. Not in every episode. What is her? Yeah, at Julia, JuliaMcCoy, Julia McCoy, at Julia McCoy. So she did an entire episode about, was it 4 months ago or something? That here's how I made my clone. So she introduces some of these episodes when she's dressed in the Star Trek garb, but not always. But you know, I'm Julia McCoy's avatar or clone. I don't know if she uses both. And I always thought she was kind of kidding around. But then I noticed the other day, she does these gestures where she like touches her neck as if like maybe a microphone has moved or something. So she kind of gets up there and then it puts her hand back down. I was like, that just kind of looks weird because it looks like the exact same motion. So I figured maybe she did make a clone because it looks pretty good. And then I realized, I guess I haven't actually seen her. I've only seen episodes with her clone, so I don't have anything. But then she did a whole episode on why she did this. Excuse me. She actually fell ill. So creating this clone was a way to kind of have a backup of herself to create content while she was recovering and all. So very interesting. Very interesting. But very weird also. Because I was like, oh, so yeah, clone. Interesting. It's interesting, but I'm like, I don't want to do that stuff. That was my whole point. It was like, did I make this point already? I create this. Oh yeah, the ad read stuff. Like somebody could just do ad reads and have a clone read them, or you could do whatever you want. I'm like, yeah, but I could make an insert for my own preamble, come back from, a precise time. And that would make it easier for people to skip and everything. But I think what I'm actually going to do is have chapters. I think that's what they call them in MP4. MP3 is going to have chapters also. But it's basically the marked times. So you should be able to skip through them. So I should just be able to produce the shows with a marker at the end of when I'm reading links. So someone could skip right through. And I could have a marker after this introductory random blather. And when I get to the outline and so on. So I could do that stuff. So I'm thinking about it. For the Buy Me an Update program, obviously it's 5 minutes. So no. This program really doesn't have an agenda. So I could go either way. I sometimes prepare an outline, which I have today. I sometimes don't. I'll just have like a bullet, like notes, literally, here are 5 things I want to talk about, but not a lot of detail. Let's just see where it goes. Today I have several words, but, so I think what I would like to do is see if people would want that. So I really need to have some of my infrastructure in place to capture opinions or feedback. So I can get feedback. So I could do a survey. I could do a survey on any number of, I think Spotify has something. I know you can do comments. I mean, if you're listening to this on Spotify, you can make a comment. But what I would really like is just one place for people to make comments. Because one of the other things I really detest is like, oh, find us on any of these 12 different places. And then each one has comments and users and whatever. Like even YouTube, you're like, oh yeah, you can comment on YouTube, or you can respond to this, or you can post a message here, or you can follow me on these social media sites and whatever. Like I kind of miss the days of the early internet when it was just like, here's my website and here's my email address. This is how you reach me. So I don't know, maybe we'll swing back to that eventually. So profile page, linking everything, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. Go there. I also have some affiliate links. Now, you don't have to buy me a coffee. You don't have to spend any money. But if you do want to purchase some of the coffee I drink, and by the way, I just literally, I think it arrived Wednesday. I used to get QV coffee, CUVEE, QV coffee. There are 2 coffees, and I used to get them a lot, like every month or something. I was on a subscription. And so I think it was every month. And it's Carmadillo and Stella Camata. They're espresso blends, espresso roast, blended beans. And I just love them. They were delicious. And so I got them again for Black Friday sale. So they're like half off. So I haven't tried them in a while. But so those are not on there. But otherwise, the Shock beans. I really enjoy those. If you like a really dark roast, highest caffeine ever in the universe style of bean, but they're really actually quite good. Lavazza, Gran Crema, excellent value and delicious, and so on. And some other stuff that I actually use. So you can support my efforts that way if you'd like, or you can just listen. That works too. So yeah, this whole entire notion of a freeform show like this is in preparation for Hugo Floss, which is intended to become like a video version of this. And I would like to have interactive streams. I know that's nothing new now, so it would be new to me. But so we'll see. We'll see what unfolds in the coming weeks. I really need an outreach platform that is not the show itself. So that's why the MuniBits platform, which I think I'm going to talk about. Am I going to talk about this? Yeah. So now, finally, my outline, the things I've prepared. I've been talking for 18 minutes. I have not looked at infrastructure as code in a long time. And if you're not familiar, then that's okay. You're probably better off. I haven't looked at it for months, several months. And the time has come where I need to look at this stuff again. I need to bring it back. I was really into Terraform from the very early days when it was in the 0. versions, like 0.11. And I think it was 0.11 where you had to do the translation, like a, what do you call that? What do you call it when you, like a script that would run to adapt it to the new format or whatever it was. I can't remember if it was 0.11 or 0.12. But anyway, so I was in those days when Terraform was like, oh, now it does something else. You'd be tracking their wildly quickly and diverse changes and so on. So Terraform is very weird. The HCL, the Hashi configuration language, I think, whatever that, HashiCorp. And it was a pain. It was a pain, but it's not hard. I mean, it's a declarative language. So you're declaring things, but then they started adding, and which is fine. I was a big fan of XML, XSD, XSL, XSLT, XQuery, what else? XPath. XPath is not a big deal. But anyway, so not a big deal. Declarative infrastructure as code. But then you're like, wait, how do I do a conditional? And then, I want to iterate over it. And then suddenly they started adding some constructs that were a little odd. I mean, they work, whatever. But it sort of had a PHP feel to it. And if you've ever used PHP like 3 to 4, you're like, what? Was there a naming convention at all for something? Anyway, so Terraform, I was all over it. I got into the version 1 dot whatever. But I built up this whole library of different modules, and I had a hierarchy of like core modules to interact directly. And then, what did I call them? Basically like assemblies, like, if you're going to do this, you need to have a DNS, you need to have a Route 53 if you're on AWS, and you need to do a load balance or whatever. So I had these little pre-built assemblies, and I could insert those and things. So they were built as modules and so on, whatever. So I was familiar enough with it so that I'm like, this would save me trouble to have all these configured already and kind of know how they work and everything. Okay, great. Then was it, who bought them? IBM? No, before IBM, they were going to do a BSL, business source license, which was a pain if you were building products on top of Terraform. But otherwise, I mean, it didn't really affect casual users. But I was like, okay, well, this is the beginning of a headache. So then OpenTofu launched. So they forked the last open source, like whatever the license was before, MIT or Apache. I think for some reason, I think it was Apache. But so they took that, they spun off OpenTofu. I think OpenTofu was part of the Linux Foundation. So it's basically all the things you liked about Terraform except for the license. And now they've kind of diverged a little bit, I think. I mean, that's going to happen if you're going to fork a project and you're like, you know what, while we're doing this, we might as well fix that one annoying thing. So there's Terraform, there's OpenTofu. I have both of those on my computer if I really wanted to jump back in there. But then I was like, you know what, I should learn how Pulumi works. And to be honest, it makes sense to be comfortable with declarative and procedural. So Pulumi is a multi-language polyglot configuration infrastructure. yeah, so I mean, it just gets away from the declarative angle and just says, hey, if you want to write some JavaScript or some Python or some Go and say if time equals whatever, create a EC2 instance. You can do stuff like that, I suppose. So if you'd want to do that, I guess there would be a reason to do that, I suppose, if you wanted to have like a cron job that would run on a particular machine, right? And then you want to tear down the infrastructure completely, so it's just gone. Anyway, so yeah, it makes sense to be comfortable with both of these, I think. And whenever I do this stuff, I have to be thinking about collaboration as far as the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, my nonprofit. So I'm trying to be as open-minded about methodologies so I can answer questions and whatnot. And if somebody says, well, why did you do this? I have a reason. Why didn't you use Pulumi? Oh, I did. I do. Pulumi has a generative AI tool that will build a starting point at least. I don't think I would use. I tried it a couple times and I was like, oh, okay, kind of close, pretty close. So I don't think I would use it for production, but it's a good starting point, definitely. Like, oh, okay, I would use about 20% of this, but that's fine. And I mean, yeah, it's just good to be able to read it. Also, I was doing a consulting project, 2022, I think. Yeah, 2022. Let's call it 22. And this company, they were not my client. I was like a third party external, and they had a team in Ukraine that was managing their actual software development and their cloud, and they did nothing with any sort of automation. So they built their entire infrastructure by hand using the AWS console. And if you've ever used that, you know that you don't want to depend on that. And you certainly don't want to hand that over to somebody else and say like, oh yeah, here's how we do it. Because we wanted to be able to recreate the infrastructure. And in fact, we were working with them right before Russia decided to begin their journey to Kiev. Old habit. So at one point I go, hey, you guys are in a war zone now. We should be able to recreate this infrastructure just in case you guys become unavailable. And in fact, they did evacuate where they were. So, we did that before. But I said, okay, do you have like an infrastructure coded with something? And they're like, nope. So it absolutely comes in handy. And there was a person who barely shows up to anything, so I can't even say he's really participating. But he, at one point, when I was talking to him in one of our meetings, our online meetups, I said, yeah, I would build some base infrastructure, pick Terraform style or Pulumi style or however you want to do it. He said, I don't really see the value. It seems like you should just get it up and running and then worry about that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, you've been a developer for 3 years. I forget sometimes how much you know after 3 years and then how much you forget after 30, I guess. But anyway, trust me, kids, if you have reproducible everything, like, oh, why check your code into a software repository? Why don't you just use zip files or write it on paper? So there's a number of things that are easier when you automate them up front or you make them reproducible up front, etc. So I'm hoping we find more people to collaborate. Right now, it's just me. That's another reason to do it, because if you codify anything, that saves you from having to remember next time, like, oh, did I use A or B for that? It's in there. And if you make a change, you check it into Git, commit it to Git or whatever you're using. Oh, why did I change this? Let me look at oh yes, 2 commits ago. Oh, that's right. Oh, there was an issue and I fixed it. Oh, okay. So you keep track of that stuff so you don't have to keep it in your head. And that's what I wanted to tell this 3-year developer person. But I stopped worrying about it. If you're not working on our projects, then do whatever you want. But if anybody's working on Innovate for Vegas Foundation initiatives, come on, you have to respect other people by making your work that they depend on usable if you are no longer dependable, if you disappear. So if everything's in your head instead of codified, or if you've done it in an impossible way, that doesn't help anybody. Anyway, so that's I guess what I'm up to this weekend maybe. And really the reason I want to do this is to get Mastodon.Vegas up and running. So I kind of want to be ready. I don't want to just piece it together, right? I've done enough AWS screwing around. I'm like, I don't want to deal with the console anymore. I don't want to set up a Route 53 DNS entry, records for whatever, and then have to hand code them. I just want to code it up, commit it, be done, and then, apply updates as needed. Infrastructure up, whatever the Pulumi up, whatever it's called. It was Terraform up, so it must be Pulumi up. So for Black Friday, Amazon Prime Video. I'm an unwilling participant in the Amazon universe. I'm less and less enthralled. I already told you about Amazon Vine in a previous episode, so so much better to not have to have compulsory reviews on my plate. Like, I don't need free crap. I'm tired. I mean, I have so many things that I used to say, I'm getting things that I would not spend money on, but they're actually pretty good. But the ratio of I should not have gotten this and now I got to write a review for it, and things that are actually good ideas was such that when my Amazon Vine account was closed because I was just a hair under the minimum percentage, the ratio of items ordered and received to items received and reviewed. I was like, I think I had to review 3 items and I would have been fine. But I went 30 days without reviewing them because I'm like, I'm just tired of this. I don't want to do it. Like writer's block on steroids. Like a writer's blocker. Big dude blocking the whole thing. So, yeah, when they closed it, I was like, oh, actually, I feel better. Anyway, so on Amazon Prime, they offered an Apple TV 3 months, I think, for whatever it was, $4 maybe, something cheap. I was like, oh, I've been wanting to check out this Pluribus show, so I did. So I got Production by Street. So I signed up for Apple TV over Thanksgiving weekend, got the Pluribus. I had watched episode 1 for free. And I was like, oh, okay, that looks good. Now, episode 1 was probably the best episode. Here's what I wrote for today. Pluribus is, I think, overly focused on one person, despite having introduced multiple other characters in the same situation. I'm trying not to do spoilers here, so that's a minor spoiler. And even having had them interact, maybe that's a minor spoiler, but that's barely a factor in this whole thing. So, we basically focus on the flawed star, and maybe it will become more interesting, but that we're just focusing on. So if you've ever seen a Last Person on Earth, which there have been movies, I think there was a TV show called The Last Man on Earth, and there were actually, 2 or 3 people. But, so it kind of has something about that going on, except that there's also like a body snatcher, sort of them kind of thing, and that might be a spoiler too, but I got to be honest, I liken this so far. I've only seen 7 episodes or whatever are available now. Comes out on Fridays. I liken this to the TV show Lost. It's like a weird, it's a weird series, and I wrote serious for some reason. It's a weird series that, like Lost did not hold my attention. I think I watched the first season and I was like, nah, not digging it. So at this point, I'm like, I don't really find the one character is not compelling to me, and I won't describe why because I probably already spoiled it enough for somebody. But I mean, I've really said almost nothing. And if you watch the first episode, for free, then everything I've said here has already been disclosed, I think, except for one thing. But not a big deal. So I haven't really told anything. So I would liken Pluribus to Lost. It's like, oh, what a weird thing. And then as you discover, oh, okay, here's what's going on there, except that there's really only the one main character. And at some point you're like, I don't know if I care about this one main character. I'm getting tired of the show already. So Lost did not hold my interest. I don't know if this is going to be a similar result for me. The story is interesting, but it's not being told in a compelling way as far as I can tell. Except the first episode was like, oh, this looks really cool. And it really hasn't maintained that coolness to me. So we're in the first season. It's not quite done yet. We'll see what happens. But I'm like, well, I'm not going to renew my Black Friday, however many months it is at half price or 30%, whatever it is, whatever the deal is. Like, Now, the other show that I had heard about, and I was like, oh, you know what? Since I'm here, was Severance. The star, he was on Parks and Rec. I'm totally spacing on his name, but I'm like, oh, I like that guy. He's pretty interesting. He's got an unusual air about him. And then I was like, I mean, if you go to IMDb, you can see, do not go to Wikipedia. And because they give you the show summaries and you can spoil yourself that way. So don't go there until you've watched it. But Christopher Walken is in there. Who else is famous? Anyway, the cast is really interesting, like really interesting characters, really well acted. The writing is pretty good, but the acting and the actors are good. The acting is good. The characters are interesting and odd, but compelling. So I started watching season 1 and I was like, ooh, this is really interesting. It's really, really, compelling. So I'll say the story, compelling. The Pluribus story started off compelling, but is getting kind of like, okay. They keep letting people off the hook very quickly in Pluribus, whereas Severance, one of the complaints, if you read reviews, is like, oh, it's very slow moving, takes a long time. And you're like, yeah, except that they're not pulling you, dragging you down the path of the story. They're just kind of, they're beckoning you. Like, come on, come this way. Take your time. There's no rush. But they're leading you down a path, and you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. So the first season, and they're interleaving different stories for the different characters, and the production is really well done. The edits are good. So as we're getting to know these people, they're not dumping a bunch of exposition on everybody. So another thing that's probably off-putting to some people is like, how come they didn't tell me everything in the first 12 minutes? Why do I still not know? And that's not how this story is unfolding. So I'm like, I'm okay with that. At first I likened this entire concept, and I don't want to give too much of it away, but I'll just say like the Matrix, because you're a real person once they wake you up, and then you can go back into the Matrix, and there's a virtual, what is it? The personal manifestation of your physical self, or whatever it is, whatever Morpheus said. So I was like, it kind of reminds me of that. But then I watched, the full first season. I was like, it really reminds me of A Scanner Darkly. If you've ever seen the Philip K. Dick, it's based on his book. The movie A Scanner Darkly is done in rotoscope, which actually is a really, really interesting aspect to it because of the way they do one of the effects, which has some of the same aspects of colleagues and roommates not knowing each other when they're in the same room because of the thing. So here you have something similar. I don't want to spoil that one, so I'll leave that there. But unfortunately, now that I have just literally today, I finished binge watching season 2. I'm actually getting an X-Files feeling, and if you're an X-Files fan, you may or may not agree with me on this, but I will not hold my breath for season 3 because X-Files, first of all, they had the 2 storylines, the conspiracy and then everything else. And so they would jump back and forth, and you're like, but wait, whatever happened with his sister? And, what about what's the CSM doing? And what's the other guy doing? And what's going on here? Excuse me. And then they would switch over to like a normal story, like, oh, the first person shooter episode, or the whatever monster, or the person who, I can't remember the episode. It's been too long. But anyway, and the 2 were so disconnected that you're like, do Scully and Mulder know about the other Scully and Mulder? Like, do they even know that they're tracking these aliens, or is this episode just completely freewheeling off the main story? So, but the thing that really makes this X-Files-ish to me is that X-Files had so many unwrapped up storyline elements. So I just say they're loose ends. It just created more and more loose ends, and then you were left with a bunch of loose ends when they canceled it. And the first movie was a good attempt. The second movie was a disappointment to me. So I'm like, I'm a little bit worried after season 2 of Severance now that how much more time do I want to put into this? So I might, when it comes out in 2027, I just read that they're going to start season 3 production in mid 26. So it'll come out sometime in 27. Okay, great. I'm not gonna be pining away for it. I'm concerned because when X-Files did that, that was really that marked the end of my being interested in serialized television. Like, I really don't want to get into a series anymore. So I'll be honest with you right now. Don't tell anybody. I have never watched a single episode of Breaking Bad. I know. I know. Maybe someday. Now that it's done, and Better Call Saul, I think, is done, and I don't know if they're bringing it back. I heard that they're going to try to bring back, what was the Malcolm in the Middle? I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's just totally bizarre. But yeah, now that that's done, I can see watching it. And of course, it's gotten rave reviews and all that stuff. Like, is there going to be a season 4 of Severance? If not, then I'll just wait and I can catch season 3 whenever. If there's going to be a season 4, I might just wait for 3 and 4 to come out and then see what happens. But I don't want to spend too much time on this because Pluribus, I'm already going, oh, it's Friday. I can catch the next episode. And I'm reminded why I don't do serial television, because at the end of each episode of Pluribus, I've been less and less thrilled with the notion of another episode coming up. I'm like, okay. Kind of losing interest. Kind of lost interest. Not really interested anymore. So anyway, we'll see what happens. I have to vent a little something so we can get off this TV thing. I think the insular, not isolationist, but insulationist, is that a thing? Insular nature of the greater Vegas area is leading to something of a plateau in the so-called startup community. Like, I think we've kind of reached peak participation in some areas. Now, I got to be honest, I really haven't been getting out there and exploring it. But if you look at a few of the indicators that I've talked about in my Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, which is about our ecosystem, for as much excitement as people want there to be here, and as much as some exude, some people are totally in, like, this place is blowing up. It's going to be huge. The total number of people in a scene, so call it a startup scene, call it a whatever, the ones who are out and about and who gather, they coagulate like blood cells. It appears to be like in the hundreds, right? 3 to 500 people. And you would think, oh, that's a lot. These are people who show up. They show up at Tech Alley. They show up at Level Up. Is that what it's called? No, Link Up, the startup.vegas thing. And I used to go to that. I used to go to Tech Alley and Link Up and all that. And you're like, okay, I'm seeing the same people. I used to organize or facilitate, I guess, the Bootstrappers Breakfast every month. I think it was the first Tuesday of the month. I did it for 2 years, and it was never worthwhile. Never, ever, not a single time. And so I'm like, I don't know if people understand what it means. Like, what are you doing? Do you have, and, you know, half the time people that would show up at the Bootstrappers Breakfast were just trolling for clients. One guy actually showed up and said, well, I was between meetings and I figured, I got nothing better to do. And you're like, that is a great way to start a date or showing up to somebody's meetup group like this. It was either participate in your thing or sit in my car and surf the web, if people still do that. So people who show up off the beaten path, maybe in the dozens, is my concern. Like, they show up at the Tech Alley regularly. There are people who come and then they're once or twice and then you don't hear from them again. Maybe you hear from them weeks or months later and they're doing their thing. And so they come and they check out the scene. They get a whiff and they're like, yeah, okay, I see what's up. And so I was at 19 consecutive Tech Alley events because I had 2 events, 2 time slots. The pitch workout room at 9 a.m. and then the rally at Tech Alley for Innovate for Vegas Foundation was at 1:15. So once a month, 2 meetups. I would get there at 8 o'clock. The person that started Tech Alley lives near me, so we would carpool down. And at some point, you're like, people don't really appreciate this. They're showing up to check a box. Hey, I'm in the startup scene. Look at me. And yeah, I just keep seeing the same. Like, it's a crank. It's a crank that's turning. But because of the nature of Vegas, people are like, oh, you're doing something. Therefore, you are instant celebrity. And the guy that founded it, Josh, is a likable goofball. So I think he's very conciliatory. Whereas I like to express my opinions. And so I just saw that last month, I saw a partnership between, and I heard from the chamber guy, the Vegas Chamber, the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, entered into some sort of a partnership with Tech Alley to organize a lunch and learn event. And I only saw it once, and it was so horribly advertised. I don't know how they had a room full of people, but I saw in a photo somebody posted, probably on LinkedIn. It looks like there was 20 people, which I'm impressed at. It was $30, it would be okay, I suppose. But in the event description where you're going to pay the $30, they had no indication of what it was just, come by the chamber and learn. We're partnering with Tech Alley and we're going to help people start their business. And you're like, how? What am I getting for $30? And it wasn't even clear that there was food, but there was no indication what this is. Just give us $30 and trust us. And then, after the fact, it's been a month now. So I'm seeing, okay, the event was kind of marketing slop from what it looked like. Like, I didn't go, obviously. So but when I see that stuff, I'm like, why is the Vegas startup scene in such a classroom tutorial mode? Like, I see a ton of people, not that people aren't doing stuff. And I always feel like I need to disclaim that. I am not saying that there's nothing happening here. But what I am saying is people are attributing any effort that makes them feel good. Like, oh, you're optimistic. You're doing something that might go somewhere and you're not being honest about the shortcomings. So you're a good marketing message. So we're going to be supportive of you, whatever that is. And so I just get the sense that, like, oh, you're facilitating some sort of a classroom setting to help people. We like that. And I'm like, I think people that are working on startups need something other than classrooms. Like, we should be doing more demonstrations. We should be doing more. If you want to do a lunch and learn, it could be much more hands-on. Like, hey, bring your startup. We're under a friend DA of some sort, so you can ask real questions. How about speed dating? Speed dating, where you talk to an expert. You got like 5 minutes. So you sit down. Okay, here's my startup real quick. So that helps you, right? You tell what your idea is in 30 seconds, or more specifically, what am I talking to you about? So you could have attorneys, you could have web designers, you could have finance people, you could have somebody that could look at your pitch. And by the way, you're like, 5 minutes, that's not enough. I'm talking a 3-slide pitch. What are we doing? What do I need? And what do you get for an investor? I've talked to investors and they're like, I don't want to see 20 slides. I'll see the 20 slides later. But when I'm sitting in a room and I'm going to see a bunch of pitches, tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you need from me and what am I going to get for my investment? Like when, how much, expected returns, all that stuff. And that's it, right? So a speed dating format would be interesting, but instead we got these classrooms that are given by marketing people with an agenda, people that are very transactional, and I'm just not totally thrilled with that. So they show up, and that's good. What I discovered in my travels, so I'm reading again, what I discovered in my travels while I was hanging out in and around this so-called startup scene, nobody wants negativity. So being honest and expressing concerns made me less than popular with some people. I literally had somebody say, like, people think that you have a really bad attitude. And I'm like, well, if I said, hey, this place is on fire, they'd be like, stop complaining. I'm like, dude, I have a nonprofit that's trying to drive some innovation. I keep saying our educational system needs to start younger. Is that complaining? So people don't like negativity. They just want to be told that everything's going well. It's unfortunate because pointing out the leak in the boat is one way to fix the leak, right? I mean, that's my view. Be negative, but, as the saying goes, don't curse the darkness, light a candle. I know you're thinking, oh, it's bring a flashlight, but the expression is older than flashlights. And here's another little vent. So that, by the way, that vent was people still believe that posting on LinkedIn is equivalent to things really happening. I read it on LinkedIn. We're going to be in the next Silicon Valley. It must be true. Here's another little vent, but more more of a shoulder shrug. So the place where I live has indoor hallways, and there's like an outer door scheme to leave the building. It's one big giant building. Internally, it's like you can walk everywhere. They have building numbers, but they're all continuously connected, contiguous buildings. So there are various doors in various states of functionality. But in July, they decided there's a new property owner, and they decided we're gonna ditch the existing RFID key card scheme, which worked, and we're gonna go with this new system that requires a fob. So come in and swap out your key card for your new key fob. So I did that in July, and they didn't take my key card because they're like, oh, we're getting rid of the whole thing anyway. You can do whatever you want with it. So since the summer of 2025, my key card stopped working, and they were going to make the fobs work. So they made it work for the car gate, since that was, got to be able to park your car in the parking structure. Understandable. But then they started installing the new access points to swipe your key fob at all the doors and all the entries and so on. They never worked. They haven't worked since. They never worked. So since July, some of the doors actually have an old style keypad on the door itself, on the knob, so you can still get in. The outer doors, not so much. Half the time they were just not locked. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess being able to get in is useful unless you're not supposed to be here, I guess. I don't know what they're thinking. So yesterday I was going to the grocery store, which is across the street, literally. So as I was leaving, one of the people that works here in the leasing office was at the door that I was going to pass through to go to the grocery store, Smith's. So we were both leaving, but then she turned around and held her fob up to the thing to check that the door was working, because long story, but she's like, okay, it works. And I said, wait a minute. When did those start working? She's like, oh, a while ago. I said, mine doesn't work. And she's like, let me see. Do you have it? Let me see. So I took my fob out, and nope, doesn't work. She's like, oh yeah, just take it to the office and they have to reset it. So I said, how was I supposed to know that? Oh, just take it to the office and reset it. Yes, I heard that. But how was I supposed to know? Because I could have gone to the office every day, because they email us about everything all the time. Like, hey, reminder, this is a non-smoking property. Hey, reminder, if the fire alarm goes off, you're supposed to go outside. But hey, reminder, if you have a key fob, you're supposed to get it reset because now you can get into the building. They didn't send that one. So I'm totally convinced that they should be a part of the startup scene. I just want to, So I read this article this morning that Microsoft is pulling back from their pursuits of Copilot. That's their AI chat tool that's making an appearance in everything. I guess they're integrating it into like Office, maybe Windows 11. And if there is one thing you do not want to have access to everything you have on your computer, it's an AI client run by Microsoft or anyone. You can read some horror stories about, I went to commit some code and the thing deleted everything. The tool I was using deleted all of my files. And sometimes they had them committed to they deleted the whole repository. It's all gone. What kind of bug is that? But anyway, so they're pulling back because nobody seems to be using Copilot, which is weird because they are number 2 in the marketplace, however they're measuring that. Like, is a person writing code with OpenAI's Codex the same as a person writing emails with ChatGPT? Are they the same as whatever other tools they have? Do they just group all that together? I don't know. But Copilot has like 14% market share and Google has 12, possibly 13%. But Google has gained 12% in the past quarter. So everybody figures, Google's going to be number 2. Microsoft is kind of lame. And that's not a position they're used to being in. So something like that, 12, 13, 14, whatever it is. So apparently the returns on switching over to AI employees, not keeping your humans around to do work, are questionable. And the products based on AI are not necessarily killing it. So if you have like I guess you can do voice cloning I was talking about that earlier with the Julia McCoy. So those are gee whiz, neato, shiny objects. But those are not the sorts of things that are they're not game changers. They are game changers to a certain extent, But if you really think about it, because she went through the steps, and it's not difficult, but if you've heard my episodes before, it's not complex. It's a complicated series of events that you have to make work across whatever tool you're using for your voice clone, your personal voice clone. I think she used 11 Labs. And then the thing you use to build your video avatar that will look fairly realistic. And then it will build a series of frames of video that will match the audio. And I think you have to provide the script. And it builds natural gesturing and does a lip sync and lays down the audio track and all that. So her videos, like I said earlier, they look pretty convincing. Like, oh, that's pretty good. But it's not for the casual beginner. So you still have to invest some time. And, she's going through some helpful hints, because she clearly spent the time and she's using it for real. So she wasn't messing around. She had a motivated reason to, no, it's motivated reasoning is a different thing. She was properly motivated to go through these steps and figure out what worked the best so that she could reproduce those steps and make the clone of herself an actual part of her overall outreach, which she does. So that's all well and good. But I don't know, like, how much AI is the casual person going to want to pay for? Like, hey, have it read your emails and send replies for you. Okay. Do I have to pay for that? Yeah, it's only $19.95 a month. Well, I don't want to, I can just reply myself. Then I'll know what I said. So yeah, it doesn't sound like AI products are taking over the world just yet. They may try eventually. But unless you're making deep fakes and customized adult content, that might be where some money is. I wonder aloud about how the internet was unfolding when I worked at Netscape back in 1997 or so, because this has the potential to be unlike the metaverse and unlike, now you're going to say, no, crypto is, but the blockchain was going to solve all the problems. Remember that? And it's like, if you want to bribe a world leader or scam a bunch of people at scale, blockchain is going to be part of your toolbox. So, but AI tools, I think, have the potential to be as much a game changer as the internet was, and certainly is. But so looking back at Netscape in 1997, so Usenet News was still a place to find multi-part alt binaries, pictures, erotica imagery, among other things. And Netscape Navigator had a news reader. No, it had a separate one, Communicator, which I worked on, Communicator. Netscape 4 had built-in mail and news. So there was mail, news, and web browsing in one super client. But either way, you could read, I don't know how they did news URLs. I guess you could do NNTP. Anyway, so you could browse, and Usenet has been around since 1983. It's still around today. It was a feature built into the browser. You could definitely, we had no policy. I mean, you had to do what you had to do in Netscape. So you could walk by somebody's cube and put the air quotes up, testing. Like, is that a picture of a dog? Whoa, what's that going? Oh yeah, sorry, I had to test UU encoded file downloads from Usenet. We had to join in. Anyway, so all that stuff was around, but it was changing fast. So adult websites were becoming a thing very slowly but surely, definitely surely. But they loaded slowly but surely also. Everybody was on dial-up. There were tons and tons of experiments happening, even over dial-up connections, 33.6, eventually 53.3, even though it was advertised as 56K, right? So people had their modems. Then some people had ISDN lines, and some people had, Some people had T1 lines running to their homes. I know some people in that era, in that time frame. So you're like, you have a T1? Jeez. That was, let's call it $1,000 a month or something like that. So if you were making money, I know one person had a Sun workstation at his home, so he would do hosting of people's websites. And this was back in the day when you're like, oh, I need to host my website. Oh yeah, you can do it for here, $10 a month. Sure. So he had 50 little one-off knockoff websites. And then he operated some businesses out of his home. So if you're familiar with Curios or Rotten or Pornholio, websites like that, they own those. So they would just host them at their home. So that was nice. for them. But this was the sort of the era of experimentation. So I still remember when I was working at Netscape, my first exposure to what was called DHTML, dynamic HTML. It was a JavaScript-driven dynamic web page concept that would eventually basically just become the HTML5, CSS, JavaScript stack of the Web 2.0 context that we have all come to expect today. So this was back when there were the demo had like elements that would float out of the page and out of the browser window. So they're just floating around on the desktop. You're like, whoa, what is going on here? Oh, we're making the browser like a platform rather than a port. Like you're not looking through the side of a ship, the portal that you're looking out. It's the ship. So all kinds of stuff could happen. And so full user interactivity, fully dynamic elements, you can move around and all that. Now that's just old hat. Now pick a framework, right? There was no Vue. There was no jQuery even. So this was all, hacked together. But nowadays, it's just kind of old hat. But those were the days when you were trying out ideas. And like every time I would go to work, which was pretty much every day, there'd be like, what is that thing? Oh, Shoutcast. They do live streaming of whatever. What's this? What's that? Like, oh, there's somebody's doing this. And everybody was trying stuff out. The dot-com boom was completely irrational, an irrational pursuit of profit from an investment spray, right? Like just throwing money at everything. Got a napkin? Is there an idea on it? Well, quick, write one and I'll write you a check, right? Just silly. But at the same time, it was also an irrational display of innovation and risk taking to see what might work, right? Like, okay, let's just try it. We have some money. Somebody wants to invest in this. They're taking a risk. We're going to try the idea. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else. And that happened a lot. Building a website back then was a wild, wild west kind of notion, but people would try ideas pretty easily, and pretty much, anything you had in mind, you could do it yourself, or you could find someone that could code up a little demo of some sort. And JavaScript was coming out really fast. So bugs and all. So today AI takes some really serious investment if you're building models and training them. So you could get data centers of billions and billions and billions of dollars of investment just in the hardware. And then not to mention the power bill, which is going to be only more of a problem as each day passes. But otherwise it's a tool. So if you're just a normal person and you want to build a new concept that has AI on the end of it, you can do that. So it's kind of reminiscent of those old days if you're on the innovator side. But if you're on the infrastructure side, if you are we got to build chips, we got to build. So back in the dot-com days, it was Sun, the network is the computer, right? We put the dot in .com. So Sun, SGI to some extent, to a non-trivial extent, but Sun was kind of the big player. IBM had their AIX machines and whatnot. We had a bunch of these at Netscape. But Sun was really showing up in data centers, hosting sites. So there were hosting companies, and then Cisco was all the infrastructure. So carrier grade and enterprise grade switches. Network traffic was flowing through a Cisco switch somewhere, pretty much anywhere. People laying down cables, so building out the backbones. So Sprint, others. So that's where the money was going back then. Now it's going into silicon. It's going into compute. It's going into powering these huge data centers, trying to get the chips to put in the data centers, dealing with the water and the electricity that you need to take away from people who live near the data centers. So that's where all that money is spending now. It's more. It's only more money than back in the .com days. But if you just want to build a website, if you want to try some experiments and try some ideas, you can go with DeepSeek, you can go with Llama, you can go with ChatGPT, you can go with Gemini. There's so many tools. It is reminiscent of those old days. And the sky's the limit, really. Just try out ideas. With cloud computing now, it is almost embarrassing how quickly, especially if you got your infrastructure as code ready, it's almost embarrassing. And if you don't want to do that, you can use Vercel or something. It is almost embarrassing. I'll get there. How easily you can reach the starting line, right? You don't, oh, I got to learn, I got to figure out how HTML works. Now I got to figure out where I'm going to host this thing. Can I still use my college account? Can I have tilde D Hugo / new idea for startup / people used to do that. That was the wild, wild west, right? So now there's so much an embarrassment of riches of tools. And if AI can help people get an idea into, version, whatever, hopefully not production, but if people can turn, because what you can do with an AI, you can at the very least build a thing that does what you want it to do mostly, and then you can collaborate on making it do exactly what you want to do. So that seems like a usable thing. You can use it for your artwork or whatever, which is what I do because I'm not an artistic person. I do have an aesthetic. I always tell people I don't. I do have an aesthetic, and I kind of know what I would like something to look like, but I really have no ability to make something that looks the way I want it to look. So it has been helpful for me in that regard. But at any moment, if somebody said, "Oh, I would like to do your art for you," I would say, "Good, let's go." So if people are building all sorts of ideas, or they're really just rehashing the same sort of let's throw it at the wall and see if it works, is that what AI is right now? Is it just like, let's just try it? Which I'm not against, but the dot-com boom was based on the financial side of that, was based on, let's just see if it works. Let's just keep throwing money at stuff, and something will, generate a return. And a lot of people made a lot of money. It will be interesting to see after the AI crash, which at this point has got to be inevitable. I mean, it's got to be with the circular funds are a problem, but there are now commitments. There are financial commitments multi-years out that are so far exceeding annual revenue, you'd almost have to just get more investment to pay off these deals that will not be revenue-based. There'll be loss. They'll be just generating more debt, or whatever they do to pay these things off or to make them happen. The deals are like building out more data center infrastructure, buying chips. There's a warrant deal with AMD and OpenAI so that they can buy chips and buy stock later, and with money that comes from, who knows? Who knows what sort of nefarious backroom dealing is going on here? But eventually, I'm not predicting, but my personal feeling would be like, it's going to be an interesting year or two. I mean, it's already getting interesting now. So I read another article. So Microsoft is now saying, people are not really totally thrilled with AI. And then you're reading, the stock market's really starting to rethink some of these investments. You got to wonder. So I don't know. I'm not invested in any of this stuff. I'm invested in me. But we'll see. We'll see what comes out of the ashes. And the dot-com bomb crash of 2000 basically was ultimately probably a good thing. I mean, some aspects of it and the lingering effects of it were not great, but you do need to have a reset when there's so much irrationality going on. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the technology has advanced at warp speed. And I'll tell you my opinion. I think the missing ingredient, there's more than one, but when we're talking to LLMs, which everybody's excited about, even though anybody who knows anything, it's like, LLMs don't really get us to where we're going. They do some cool magic tricks, but they're not actually magic. So if LLMs are going to continue to be interesting and useful, because they are useful, generative AI is a thing and it does do some useful things. Is it going to change the world? It kind of has a little bit, but it's not going to get us all the way to like your, human replacement. Even though people are going to try, and then they're going to be like, hey, this thing only works half the time. Humans work more than half the time, but not much more. They sleep. Anyway, the thing that will be interesting though is what comes next, and where people will say, oh, now we know how to do some things in a more creative but also efficient way. So the missing ingredient to me is something that you'd hear about this in the Atari 2600 days. Like, they only had 2K of ROM and they had to fit this entire game into 2K. That's 2048 bytes. And then, now we have 4K cartridges. That's twice as much space to fit your sprites and your code and sound effects. So what we have here is like, oh, can I just get 1,000,000 parts and power them with as much power as I need, and then we'll just go to town? And nobody's saying things like, shouldn't we try to be more power efficient? No, screw power efficiency. This is America, damn it. We don't worry about things like that until it's too late. But I just think that sort of thinking is going to be a huge problem. So hopefully, if there is a AI winter or an AI bubble burst, a winter would be fine, where people say, you know what, let's roll back some of the spending for a little while and try to catch up on business model. But I would love to see if people would be more creative with power consumption. And it's not clear to me that water that goes through a data center is unscathed. I've not really looked into that too much, but I just saw this article. So I think Google has a data center here in Southern Nevada, somewhere in Henderson. And I just saw something about a UNLV student project to try to make the water usage scenario there a little bit better. It seems like that would be a clinic project. I don't even know if UNLV ever figured out clinic projects. I'll talk about that someday. Yeah, I don't know. I need to get the MuniBits platform in a usable state immediately, because I just have to. I'm so tired of the media landscape in Vegas, which is entirely at odds with the notion that this is an innovation hub. They cover the strip, gaming or gambling, the fun economy in general, of course, and crime, double, of course. But when it comes to this humongous concept of the global innovation hub and the startup scene and the alleged tech scene that's within, whatever, we got crickets. There is an entrepreneur section in the Review Journal, and I couldn't find one equivalent in the Las Vegas Sun. Those are our two papers of record. Review Journal on the right, Las Vegas Sun on the left. So I need to, at this point, because I am operating in true entrepreneurial fashion, so I want to, but no, I need to try some ideas and see if they will work. So it reminds me of the .com era all over again, except here in Vegas, even though we are not going to be the next Silicon Valley. And I do not use AI as a replacement. I use it sparingly as a tool, mostly for audio program cover art, which I've described, or maybe the AI summary response in a Google search results page. If it's something I'm just like, almost like if you're doing a, dictionary, like a definition. What did I look up just earlier? I can't remember the word, but like, oh, what is a plebiscite? Type that in. Google would be like, oh, you're just typing in one word that I don't see often. You must be looking for a definition. So the first thing it would put up was the definition. Then it would put links to different dictionaries and other somewhat relevant links. So now they do an AI summary thing. So if I'm looking for like, oh, give me an example of a Python function, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, here's how you do that. So it's like, that's useful. But you are avoiding the need to visit other websites, but that's taking traffic away from those websites. So I don't think that's good. I think it's ultimately not a great idea. What would be nice is, now you don't get to see the ad or whatever the business model of the destination website would be, but it would be nice if there was some way that Google would say, by the way, we got this answer from, and somehow provide some sort of something, not traffic, but a fractional penny or something. I don't know. That seems like the business model. If you ever read Empire of AI, I think is it Empire of AI or Empire AI? Who's making my phone be noisy? It's I read the book. It's Empire of AI by Karen Hao, Hao. It was not the book I was expecting, but it was still interesting. But they OpenAI used all of GitHub, from what I understand, and they're using Reddit, Wikipedia. So they're basically just drawing in these things to learn how to code and to learn all these facts and everything. And I'm not the first person to say this. That is not right. That is not. And I always use the Oculus business model as an example. So Oculus did their Kickstarter, and a bunch of people bought the headsets, but you're not an investor. So when Oculus got bought by Facebook, the people that founded Oculus got their money. The people that enabled Oculus to reach that point by supporting them on Kickstarter, they were not investors, therefore they were not entitled to any of that upside. So similarly, if you were putting your code in GitHub, especially for free, or if you've edited Wikipedia articles, or if you're a Reddit contributor, you didn't know that you were going to be used as a development inputs for these companies that are losing billions of dollars. Now, you don't want to be on that downside, but it would be nice if somebody said, hey, by the way, thanks for your work that you did not know you were doing for us. So here's a dime, here's a quarter, but there's none of that. So I think that's kind of messed up. But yeah, if you read that book, Empire of AI, just the whole thing is kind of smarmy. So yeah. So I just think that the whole stealing content, and a lot of people are commenting on the art side. Disney and OpenAI just made a deal so that they can use Disney characters in their, what's it called? Sora video generator. But at the same time, Disney is like, hey, Google, you got to take down all the Disney content. So now it's going to be, whoever made the deal. But you're still, casual image creative person doesn't have Disney. So if your work is showing up, I did some cover art, and I said, in the style of Gary Larson of Far Side, get some water here. So I said, in the style of Gary Larson, create an image of people going in through the exit and leaving through the entrance of a thing and whatever. So it creates this artwork, like a cell, cartoon cell, and it signs his name on it. And I was like, is this an existing Far Side? It could be. So I tried to look around and see if, were they just handing me a Far Side Gary Larson cartoon, like an existing piece of art from him, and I could not find one. So that's even weirder because they're putting his name on it, but it's not his work. That's kind of weird. But anyway, so it's just kind of a mess. And so yeah, I don't think AI is a great idea yet. It's certainly not ready for prime time. I just saw that some medical startup, AI for doctors, is getting a $12 billion valuation. And I'm like, AI is not ready for medicine. I hope they're not going that way. AI for research, very interesting. AI for working directly with patients. Ooh, no. But the MuniBits platform, which will become, or will be the basis, the underlying platform enabling the in Las Vegas information sharing platform, I need to get that into a mode where I can start fiddling with it, throwing stuff against the wall and see if it works, so to speak. Because I was looking around today for some media about the entrepreneurial stuff going on in Vegas. Good luck. Yeah, everything is hidden. Nobody knows how to promote anything. Nobody knows how to draw attention. I've already, in Impresarios, I talked about this. During Global Entrepreneur Week, nothing. During Startup Week, nothing. Where are people supposed to learn about these things? You always go, oh, that was 3 months ago. There was a Startup Week? Why didn't I know about it? Well, you got to follow the right people on LinkedIn, and even then, the algorithm's going to fight against you. So, too bad. So we can change that. And one of the things that Vegas should lean into is the fact that with so many people visiting here from other places, so many people moving here from other places, with our net population increase not as big as most places, I don't know if we've hit a net negative. I don't think our population is really growing so much as sort of steady state right now. But people are here from multiple places. So this is an interesting place. Our tourism for the year will be something like 39 point whatever million people. Should be, in a normal year, should be closer to 42 if we're going to stay on trend. I think they want 46. I read that somewhere, but don't quote me. But it's supposed to be under 40 million for 2025. And that's still a lot of people. And these are always opportunities to engage people, even passively, with better tools for discovery and locating information and whatnot. There are so many examples of, I hate to be mean, but there are so many examples of half-assery. We'll just throw up a website with a WordPress calendar and we'll call it a day. And you're like, yeah, but this doesn't work. Is Down to Play? And I don't even want to link to these things because they're so horrible. No. Down to Play.Vegas? Down to Play.Vegas. Is that what it is? No. Oh, yeah. So down to play.vegas redirects to playcation.vegas. So you can just go there directly. Playcation. PLAYCATION.Vegas. It hasn't changed in 2 years since I spoke to them. They spent this money. I think they spent $30,000 to get this website up. When you first land on the page, it's completely like black text on a dark gray background for the navigation, and there's just a host of issues. But my favorite part, yeah. They have these flyers that are posted on the website as PDFs. So when you go, I just picked the art walk bike section. You can download this PDF, but it displays the PDF as an embedded object. And there's link text on the PDF. It's a multi-column page. And there's not even a QR code here. Because it says, oh, scan the QR code. No QR code. So there's link text, but it's a picture of link text in the PDF. Actually, I don't even know if it's a PDF or it's just a PNG. So it's displaying the PDF as a PNG, like a screenshot. So it's not even a link map. So there's a link for rtcsnv.com, right? Okay, bike share, great. That's not a link. That's a picture of a link. It's the dumbest. But wait, let me interrupt myself by reminding you that we are going to be the next Silicon Valley, and we are a global hub of innovation. So when I see this stuff, I'm like, somebody has to, somebody has to be the wake-up call. So that's what MuniBits will intend to be. And MuniBits, being an open source project from Innovative Vegas Foundation, will aim to provide the same sort of purpose-built notion at connecting people of a locality and information. And then, so MuniBits is for that. And then the welcome version is for people visiting. So when you think about it, if you live in a place, you don't have the same needs on a day-to-day basis as somebody visiting. So the idea is to provide different types of elements that are suitable for a resident of an area versus a visitor to an area. They may be very similar, but it's by having the two separate initiatives, that is from baseline, a recognition that there are two fundamentals. I live here, I'm visiting here. But anyway, yeah, Playcation, just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Copyright 2023, yeah, it's about right. And it's powered by GoDaddy website builder. So I don't even know if they're using a database here. I don't even know if stuff has been updated. They used to have like promotions and stuff. You can't link directly to things, so you can't really share. You just get whole pages. There's no shareable anchors. Here's a directory of retail businesses in the downtown area, and you just get a list. So you can't, anyway, so just a whole bunch of things that are not designed to be usable and innovative. They're garbage. And I don't want to tear this apart too much, but this is the type of thing that we run into in general here, is that we think we're all that, but we're really not doing anything that is all that. And so that really needs to change. And that's part of the whole notion of Innovate for Vegas. Anyway, I think, we're at 1 hour and 27 minutes. I honestly didn't know if this would go for more than 30 minutes. So I apologize. I'm surprised my voice hung out this long. I haven't really been talking loud, as you've gathered. I normalize the volume, the amplitude of the audio programs to the pretty standard minus 23 LUFS. So that's about where people set things. So the idea is, I don't want to blow out your eardrums. I don't want you to have to increase the volume however you're listening to this, so that the next thing you listen to isn't too loud, right? So minus 23 is about right. I think I tried, let me see what the internet says. Standard LUFS setting. Oh, most podcasts target minus 16 LUFS, and Broadcast TV aims for minus 24. You can look at, it's LUFS. You can just look for that if you're not. Here's a PSA that says, do not master your audio at minus 14. Yeah, I've just been using minus 23 forever. When I made that determination, I did a small amount of testing, and that seemed to be about right. Anyway, nobody has said that it's hard to hear or that it's too loud. So I think minus 23 is probably Not bad. Anyway, that's about it. I think I'm done. The time is 3:52 on the clock. So I will normalize the amplitude. So minus 23 left. So hopefully that's okay for everybody. Then I truncate silence. No, noise reduce. So I noise reduce on the normalized audio. So I have the settings for, to reduce, because once you amplify something with a tiny bit of hiss on it, and I don't know if the noise is picked up from my computer fan or power lines in general, but when I do apply, so if I'm just talking to somebody on a Zoom call or something, I don't use Zoom, but you know what I mean, it's fine. But once I normalize the audio amplitude, any little noise like that, like if my air conditioner comes on while I'm recording, that's a horrendous amount of noise when you boost it, because it ends up, the quiet parts when the air conditioner is on get normalized also, and suddenly you've got this, right? That's no good. So easily removed if I just apply some noise filter and then I truncate silence. And that'll probably bring the time down to, like, I try to guess sometimes 125. I'm going to say it's 130 as I'm speaking right now. It's 130 in 30 seconds. So I'm going to say we're going to do 125 with silence truncation. 125, 1 hour, 25 minutes. So we'll see. I'm not going to comment on that. So you can be the judge if you've listened this far. Thank you. And if you didn't reach here, then we won't talk about those people. Thanks for listening as always. Take care, and try to give some of my other audio programs a listen now and then. See what you think. Take care now. Bye-bye.